Welcome to another FPL video. This is going to be my current draft, and just before I go on holidays I would like to also do a team selection video if I make enough changes. Otherwise I may even record some videos there during my holidays, but not to worry. I'm now going to show you with some new graphics my current draft. Let me know your thoughts about it, and let's get this video to 200 likes, and without further ado, let's jump straight into it. In goal we have Alisson still, and I had him also in my last draft video, and I'm quite happy with him, to be honest. I think he's probably the best goalkeeper in isolation. I can see him scoring the most points. He's got the highest ceiling, especially amongst those 5.5 million goalkeepers. But you've also got Madison, who is also a viable alternative. And I have a few kind of concerns about City's defence. Laporte's injured, also John Stones. They've got a few kind of niggles at the back, and I still think they're going to make a few signings there. So I think I would rather go for Liverpool's double up in defence to start the season. But that's not to say if you are going with Ederson and Cancelo, for example, I still think that's a fabulous duo. And in terms of Alisson, we've discussed him in previous videos as well, such as the best goalkeepers. He scored the most points of any goalkeeper last season with 176. He got 20 clean sheets, the joint most with Ederson sharing the Golden Glove. He made 75 saves and he got 15 bonus points, which is the most of any goalkeeper covered in the best goalkeepers video. And his ownership is just under 20%. It's 18.8%. Let me know what you think of this pick, and you could maybe make a bit of money there, downgrade him to a 5 million goalkeeper or 4.5 million. But I always think if you have that extra bit of money, I think it's actually worth going to Alisson this season. I think that price is just really good. It's very hard to turn down. And last season, he actually scored more points per million than the likes of Trent and Robertson, despite the fact that he was 6 million last year. And now he's only 5.5. So I think he offers great value at the back. The only downside really is that it also prevents you from having a triple up of Liverpool in the outfield positions, because Robertson's still a great option. You've got Trent, Diaz, Salah, Nunez is looking pretty decent, and you've also got Diego Jota in the mix. So that's the only downside. Other than that, I think Alisson is a great pick. It's quite a similar looking backline. I have made a few changes here and there though. So instead of Ben Chilwell, I've gone for Reece James, and the main reason why is because Chilwell hasn't gotten that many minutes during pre-season. Now Chelsea have actually looked very poor. Yesterday they lost 4-0 to Arsenal, and they've only got one win throughout the whole pre-season. Reece James actually scored an own goal in their only victory against Club America in a 2-1 victory. Trent Alexander-Arnold is also in here instead of Robertson, but pretty much the rest of my backline remains the same. I'll also be talking about my substitutes at the very end, and I'll also show you my captain. Joao Cancelo remains, and you can still cover him with Diaz, Laporte when he's fit, and Ederson, but I think if you can stretch to it, Cancelo's definitely worth it, and he's very underrated in terms of his attacking threat. He only scored 1 goal last year, but his XG was almost 6, and I think he's got a few more goals coming this season. 11 assists, I think he could do something similar. If not, he can still get a good amount. But Reece James versus Chilwell is a very difficult one, and I really like Chilwell. He scored the most points amongst defenders per 90 minutes last season, but I'm very concerned about his fitness, and I think Reece James has got plenty of minutes under his belt, not just at the end of the last campaign, but also during this pre-season. And as for Trent, 2 clean sheets on the bounce after a 4-0 loss to Man United, and he's also got 2 assists, so he's looking very sharp. And Robertson has no assists so far during pre-season, but it's still very close. I like Robertson a lot, but I think Trent to start the season might just be the better pick, and this is something I also discussed in my best defenders video. If you want, check that out. And I've also got Sven Botman here, who is starting at home to Nottingham Forest. He does face Liverpool and Man City away, and I know some of you are put off the likes of Trippier because of that, but only 4.5 million. Botman also mixes very well with other 4.5 million budget defenders, and I think you can afford to have him on your bench or in your squad overall, and I don't think it's actually a bad thing. If anything, you gain a bit of squad depth by having someone like Botman in there. So this is a solid backline, but there are obviously still some issues, and I'll be discussing a few more problems as we go through the rest of the team in terms of what I don't have and what I'd like to improve maybe in future drafts and the final team selection. I still think midfielders offer great value this season, and I think it's very important to try to have that 8 million midfielder slot, because there are so many options around that price. Even Jarrod Bowen at $500,000 more. Salah remains. I'm also seriously considering Son, but with the form of certain forwards that we'll discuss later on in this video, it's quite difficult to fit those forwards in, as well as Heung-min Son alongside Mohamed Salah, who also has been pretty decent throughout pre-season. So if we look at some of the stats, yes, against United he didn't do anything in their 4-0 loss, but he also scored 2 goals in the following 2 games, and he has looked relatively sharp. And what I like about Liverpool are their opening fixtures: Fulham away, Crystal Palace at home, United away, Bournemouth at home, and Newcastle at home. And even beyond that, it looks pretty good as well, and that's why you you see this Liverpool triple up here with Alisson, Trent and Salah. And Diaz is still a good option, but I think there are better 8 million midfielders out there, at least for the time being. And I may change my mind as we evolve through the season and we see new things happen. But I really like James Madison. He's got 1 goal and 1 assist throughout pre-season, so nothing spectacular. And you also got the likes of Harvey Barnes and Jamie Vardy, who are also looking very sharp. But James Madison did so well at the end of the last season, and I also like the game weeks 1 and 3 fixtures. But the downside to having James Madison is in game weeks 2, 4 and 5 he faces the likes of Arsenal, United and Chelsea, and I can see some points and returns for Madison and Leicester, but I still would be a bit concerned, and those fixtures pale in comparison to the likes of Bukayo Saka at Arsenal, who I also have been considering. But then if you're going for Gabriel Jesus up front, it does become a little bit more difficult. While Salah is owned by 57% of the game, Madison's ownership has actually decreased from the best midfielders video to 5.9%. Then you've got Rashford, who's just becoming more of a popular option now, and he scored 2 goals during pre-season. He's looking good. Even for the Matty Cash own goal in United's 2-2 draw against Aston Villa, Rashford took the shot, so he would get the assist for that in FPL. So he's looked pretty good. But then we have Leon Bailey, who's coming as a bit of a surprise at the moment, and I wouldn't want to start him every single week, at least not right now, but he is looking very promising at 5 million, and he could be one of the very best options at that price point, even more so than Elanga, who will probably be the second choice left winger for United behind Rashford. But when we talk about Bailey, he started 3 out of the 4 Aston Villa pre-season games, and he got a goal and assist versus United, and he got 3 goals and assists in those 4 matches. So really promising stuff from Leon Bailey, and I just like the look of this midfield, but I think it could be improved a little bit more because my 5th midfielder is a 4.5 million option, and I tend to want a bit more funds allocated to the midfield position because that's where you're going to score the bulk of your points. Some would argue that maybe this season it's going to change. It's going to be a bit more balanced in every single position, especially with the tremendous value offered by defenders. But I still think the midfielders will give you the bulk of the points. So it's very important to get that right. And if you have a draft where you don't have an 8 million midfielder, that doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean that you can't do that. But I would be slightly concerned, especially if it takes you 2 transfers to then get to that 8 million midfielder. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below what you think the best team structure is, and would you want that 8 million midfielder in there? And if so, which one are you picking? I have to say, just without looking at the fixtures too much, James Madison is probably my favourite. If not, he is in my top 3, but it's also very difficult with some of those fixtures he has. So he may not be here when the team selection comes, unfortunately, despite me backing him, especially in game weeks 1 and 3. You've also got Riyad Mahrez, who has been starting both games for Manchester City during pre-season, but there are some rumours floating around, and I'm not too sure if they're concrete, that Foden could be deployed as a right winger. I think that'd be a bit strange because he's always played as the left winger and also in various other positions. But I have to say, Riyad Mahrez, he's looking much better this season as he was in the previous campaigns. He should get more minutes, and he's also someone who has featured in my previous drafts, and he may yet do so once again. These 2 forwards have been absolutely incredible during pre-season, Gabriel Jesus and Harry Kane. So if we look at Gabriel Jesus specifically, he scored once again against Chelsea, a nice chip over Mendy. He also scored 2 goals versus Nuremberg on his debut, and he got a goal and an assist versus Everton. So very good stuff from the Brazilian. But then Harry Kane, even better, with 5 goals in 3 starts. He scored in every single game for Spurs during pre-season, and he's looked so sharp. Heung-min Son has got a goal, I think, and a few assists, but Harry Kane has definitely been the standout from Spurs, and I would really seriously consider having him. But then you look at Erling Haaland on his debut, in the first 12 minutes he scores against Bayern Munich. So it's really difficult to pick between Harry Kane and Erling Haaland, and that's why some people just go for both of them in their team, but it's very difficult. You have to find that compromise. I like this team structure. It's a 4-4-2 right now, but I still have a few decent options on the bench, so things could change from time to time. But predominantly, I think I would be playing a 4-4-2 with this current draft, and I have to say I like the ownership of Harry Kane as well. It's around 20.9%, and Erling Haaland is around 59%, but I wouldn't look too much into ownerships. Maybe that's kind of a mistake I've made in some of my videos. Now, I really like having a few differentials in there, but don't force some in just for the sake of being different. I would like a bit more of diversity in the FPL community in terms of the players we pick and not everyone having the same teams, but at the same time, the template is rather strong, but I think the pricing this year in some areas has been pretty good, and it gives us the options to maybe go a bit different in certain areas and positions. So for example, the 8 million midfielders, and that might be your way of gaining rank on those around you. But it's a very interesting one for sure. Now let me show you who my captain will be, because it's definitely between Mohamed Salah and Harry Kane, as well as my substitutes. It's a very difficult one, but Harry Kane would be my captain just about over Mohamed Salah. If you look at the record of Harry Kane versus Southampton, it's tremendous. He's got 11 goals in 14 Premier League appearances and multiple assists, and he's also got a good record in all competitions. As for Salah, he's got 2 goals in 4 games against Fulham, but that's only one aspect in terms of the captaincy. That shouldn't be the only factor. You've also got the teams themselves, and I still back Liverpool a little bit more than Spurs, but I have to say the North London club are definitely looking strong in pre-season, and I think they'll do pretty well in this campaign, perhaps even better than what we saw last season, which was already pretty good enough. And this is a pretty solid team overall, but in terms of the captaincy for the game week 1, it definitely has to be between Salah and Kane, and I think it would be the case in most weeks. Despite how good Jesus has been, you've got James Madison, who's always a nice differential, especially in terms of captaincy. Trent, Cancelo, James, they're always good captaincy options from time to time, but it has to be Salah or Kane for me, and it's a nice kind of headache to have. In game week 2, it'd be quite simple. Salah will be the captain against Crystal Palace, whilst Kane faces Chelsea away, but the way that Chelsea are playing, it might not be the worst fixture in the world, and I think more people will be gravitating towards Harry Kane, despite Erling Haaland scoring on his debut yesterday. And as you can see in terms of the substitutes, you've got Gazzaniga, there's the 4 million goalkeeper. He actually featured in a 5-1 loss against Benfica, but Fulham also won 2-0 against Nice with Rodak in goal. So that'll be a bit interesting. I still think Rodak will be the main goalkeeper, and I also think that Leno could complete a move to Fulham, and that will push Gazzaniga down the pecking order. But right now, he has the best chance of any 4 million goalkeeper to start, and I've seen a lot of you in your drafts having someone like Alisson or Mendy in goal, and then having Raya as your backup goalkeeper. Now, that's not the worst thing in the world, but I just don't think it's absolutely necessary. And one kind of comment about Raya, and a reason why he didn't feature in the best goalkeepers video, and also why he was removed from my team, is because Brentford recently signed a goalkeeper called Thomas Strakosha, and I'd be a bit concerned about Raya. It doesn't mean he's now suddenly never going to play again, but it's something to keep at the back of our minds. And I also have a few doubts about Brentford. They haven't looked great during pre-season, and I would have my concerns. Let me know what you think of that one. Now, I had Tomiyasu in there in my current team, but I have changed him to Ben White, and the main reason why is because Tomiyasu is a doubt to start the season. He hasn't played at all during pre-season, and he's having more muscular issues, and he is fairly injury prone, unfortunately. I have changed him to Ben White, who could start as the main right back there for Arsenal over the likes of Cedric, and Saliba plays as the right centre back. That's what they lined up with against Chelsea in their 4-0 victory, so that's something to keep an eye on. And if not, Ben White will slot in as the right centre back potentially with Gabriel, and Saliba drops to the bench, and then Arsenal play Cedric there. So Arsenal have a few options in those positions. But with Tomiyasu, I wouldn't expect him to start against Crystal Palace in game week 1, and I'd like to have that kind of set and forget option in Ben White for now, but I'd still have a few concerns about Ben White being as nailed as he was in the last Premier League campaign. Now, Arsenal have looked very good during pre-season. They've won every single game, and they've also kept 2 clean sheets, so I like the look of them. That doesn't mean that Arsenal are back and that they're amazing, but they are someone to keep, in mind, and they could be decent, competing for a Champions League spot, who knows. And I think having that 4.5 million defender is a great way to enter their defence, and I think they could keep more clean sheets than they did last season, so long as the majority of their main defenders stay fit, which was a big issue in the last campaign. And as you can see, Andreas Pereira is my midfielder, but I'd still be very concerned about him. So I've actually talked about him before, especially in terms of the price releases. So with Pereira specifically, he's got 2 goals and 4 assists throughout his whole Premier League career. But in the last campaign in Brazil, he got 2 goals and 1 assist in 13 matches. So that's nothing spectacular, but he should start the majority of games for Fulham in an attacking midfield position. And for 4.5 million, you can't really ask for too much more. However, there are other 4.5 million options to consider, such as Josh Da Silva, who's looking pretty good for Brentford. So it might be quite close between the two of them. And if you have a midfield structure where you need 2 4.5 million midfielders, I'd probably go for Andreas Pereira and Josh Da Silva. I think those are the 2 standouts. And finally, my forward is Archer. And I have to say he's looking very impressive in pre-season, also in the last campaign in the Championship. And he only played 24 minutes in the last campaign, and his ownership is only 3.3%, which I like, by the way. And one good thing about his low ownership is that he's less likely to go up or down, and he just stays at that 4.5 million price point compared to maybe someone like Greenwood, who has high ownership. And as more people sell him, it's more likely that his price is going to go down and you lose 0.1 million in value. It's nothing, grand, it's nothing major, but it's something to keep in mind. And he got 20 goals and 5 assists in 33 matches last season, 7 goals and 1 assist in 20 Championship games. Very impressive stats. And also in pre-season, he has featured in 3 out of 4 games, and he scored versus Walsall and Brisbane Roar. So he's actually doing a really good job, Archer. And whilst he's not going to be the main striker, it's going to be Watkins Then you've got Danny Ings as well. But I think Archer could be the third striker there for Aston Villa, and he could get plenty of minutes coming off the bench, and maybe, who knows, from time to time he could start. And what if he gets loaned to another Premier League club? It's definitely, a possibility, and I really like him. He's probably my favourite 4.5 million forward. Let me know what you think of this team overall and the substitutes. Is there anything that you would change? And what do you think about the captaincy? It's still very close. And needless to say, if I had Erling Haaland, Mohamed Salah would definitely be my captain, and then Haaland could be my captain in Game Week 2, for example. So this is not set in stone. There could still be a few changes, but as you can see, my team structure is quite similar to the last video as well. And I do like something like this, where you have 4 or 5 good defenders there, maybe 2 or 3 premiums per se. Then in terms of the midfield and attack, 2 premiums there, and you've got an 8 million midfielder. And this time I've gone for that 8 million forward in Gabriel Jesus, who looks in fine form. But thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think of this video and the new graphics. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's get this video to 200 likes, and we're on the road to 15,000 subscribers. It'd be very much appreciated if you click that subscribe button. And you can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and become a Patreon or a channel member. The links are in the description below, and you can also join the FPL League. Be sure to check all of that out. Enjoy the rest of your summer break. The Premier League is fast upon us, not too long now. So hopefully you enjoy the rest of the summer break you have, as well as the Premier League action when it begins. And I'll see you next time.